What's up, everybody? DogNation.com, intrepid reporter Jeff Sintel here, talking about all things Georgia recruiting. Of course, that means it's Wednesday night. How's everybody on Wednesday night? A historic day for our nation. And we've got tonight, as we do every Wednesday night, brought to you by Kroger, we've got tonight to talk to you about Georgia recruiting. Some interesting news today we'll get to along our show. But also, we've got the 2022 recruiting class to take a look at. Want to first off say hi to everybody that's on Facebook. Hello to everybody that's on YouTube. How's everybody's week doing so far? Thankfully, I do not host a recruiting show for a SEC East neighbor directly north of the state of Georgia. Otherwise, my background would look a lot different. And maybe our sponsor would be fill in the blank. You know what our sponsor would be. It would not be a sponsor. The quality of Kroger and its fine grocery stores across the state of Georgia, the Southeast, and also America. Would not be talking about Tennessee football. That would be not a good show to do tonight, talking about Tennessee football. I think it's interesting. You see four of maybe their better players: Eric Gray, Quavaris Crouch, Henry Chioto. All those guys are portaling. Wanye Morris already portaled out. He chose Oklahoma earlier this week. So lots of stuff going on there. Some news to keep up with, especially Georgia football recruiting-ish. Georgia extended a preferred walk-on offer today to Logan Johnson. That was the go-to receiver. I think one of the most entertaining high school football players in Georgia for the last 2 years. Brock Vandagriff's number one receiver. If you guys don't know, you know a lot. You may know a lot about Brock Vandagriff, but I wonder how many of you folks know that his go-to receiver was probably about 5 feet 6 inches. He was committed to Troy, but he did not sign during the early period. Will be very interesting to see what he does now. Logan Johnson announced earlier today that he got a preferred walk-on offer after a conversation with Glenn Schumann. Seems natural. Glenn Schumann really kind of spearheads the Georgia preferred walk-on program so well. He's kind of coordinated that very well for the last couple of years. That was some news. The other big enchilada of news today was the National Quarterback Club. They extended they named Brock Vandagriff as its National Quarterback of the Year. Such luminaries of late as Bo Nix, Bryce Young, Spencer Rattler, some other Heisman Trophy winners going back a little bit, Tim Tebow, Vince Young, they've won this same award. Brock, who's already a freshman at Georgia, enrolled last week, taking classes. He will, the banquet is scheduled for that in June the 12th, I believe, and it will be out in Arizona. Roman Gabriel will be there, I believe. Doug Williams will be there. Big deal for the National Quarterback Club every year, and they've honored Brock Vandagriff, Georgia freshman Brock Vandagriff, as their National Quarterback of the Year. I think Brock was most deserving candidate. I think his resume was also enhanced by, there are a couple quarterbacks, Caleb Williams on his way to Oklahoma. He didn't have a football season this year because of COVID. He's now already at Oklahoma. So I guess when you don't have a season, you can't get National Quarterback of the Year. But even in a normal year, non-pandemic year, I think the year that Brock Vandagriff put up, leading his team to a state title, becoming, I think what I checked, only one of 5 high school quarterbacks in the state of Georgia history to throw for more than 4,000 yards in a season and also run for 4,000 yards in a season. I think the most ultimate season when it comes to that was Deshaun Watson in Georgia, Class 3A football. His junior year, he threw for 4,400 in 15 games, and he also ran for 1,400 in 15 games. That is the standard bearer for all things great Georgia schoolboy quarterback going forward. So our show topic for today, as you guys notice that thing that scrolled across your screens, is, we're going to get into the top targets for 2022 like we always do. But I think I wanted to kind of size up the class in a certain specific way. I've identified 3 positions as our graphics stated, as our headline stated. I've identified 3 positions that I think are just simply vital for Georgia in the 2022 recruiting class. I can tell you who it's not. It's not the offensive line position. I can't imagine Georgia recruiting any much better than they did on the offensive line over the last couple of years. Don't think it's going to be defensive back, even though Georgia's kind of already doing really good there with Dayon Bowie, Marquise Groves-Killebrew, two really top 100 type defensive backs already. I think Georgia did a very good job in recruiting defensive backs in 2020 and 2021. Everybody's excited to see what Jalen Kimber and Major Burns and Keely Ringo, those guys have to do, much less guys like Nyland Green, David Daniel, Javon Bullard, Kamari Lassiter, and then potentially Terrion Arnold as well in the 2021 class. But the positions that stick out for me, I'm going to start with the first one for me. First one of those has got to be the defensive line. The reason why, perhaps the best reason why, is you're not just recruiting out of need there. You're recruiting for strength. There is a loaded class of 2022 defensive linemen in the state of Georgia. Georgia's already got a commitment, a very steadfast commitment from Tyree West out of Tift County and Tifton. That's good. He's a top, 40 type talent. But then there's also guys like Kristen Miller. There's guys like Mikkel Williams. Certainly that would be a strong starting spot for Georgia in the defensive line class. But they've also got their eyes on Barry Alexander out of Texas, who just won a state championship this week. They've also like Travis Shaw out of North Carolina, another 5-star type talent. But the state of Georgia itself is particularly loaded across the defensive line. Defensive end, you got Mikkel Williams right there, another phenomenal defensive end in the 2022 cycle. But the other thing is there's just a genuine need. Defensive line is the most important position recruiting every year in the SEC. I think every year that I've done one of these, the defensive line has always been vital. You're never going to hear me in any shape or form say that Georgia is very good on the defensive line. They don't need to really have a showstopper type year recruiting the defensive line. They need to do that every year, but is especially exaggerated in 2022. Let's look at the names here. I put together a list of Bulldogs that would either be gone or have 1 year or less remaining at the defensive line position in 2022 for the 2022 season. Of course, Jordan Davis won't be around. Trayvon Walker probably won't be around by then either. His draft eligible year would be after the 2021 season. Julian Rochester, Devontae Wyatt, Tramel Walthor out of South Georgia, all those guys. You're talking about some of the bigger names, much less some guys that caught redshirt freshman years like Damon Mitchell, Zion Logue, Bill Norton. That's why the defensive line is a priority for the 2022 class. The second one identified here was running back. Well, why? Running back looks like a bonus year for 2021 already with the return of James Cook and Zamir White. The other thing there is Georgia only signed one running back in 2021. Also very interesting to pay attention to. But also, as I said before, the Bulldogs that were on the current roster that would have 1 year or less at the position in 2022. Of course, James Cook, of course, Zamir White, but Kenny McIntosh as well. Kenny McIntosh, hard to believe, 2019, 2020, 2021. He would actually be draft eligible after the 2021 season as well. Don't see him making a jump, but he'd have the possibility to do so as well. So that was three of Georgia's. Georgia likes to have 5 scholarship running backs at that position every year. We've mentioned that a lot of times on this program, but currently you got those 3. You got Dejon Edwards, Lavassier Carroll coming in the 2021 class, and then also the fabulous Kendall Milton as well. Guys that would still be in their second year of eligibility, or for Kendall, it would be his third year of eligibility in the 2022 season. That could potentially be his last year in Athens. That's 2 of the positions. If you're just joining us, thanks for joining us on Before the Hedges. I'm your host, Jeff Sintel. We're talking right now, the start of our show, about the 3 positions I think Georgia really needs to clean up with in the 2022 signing class. Not really the tight end position is a huge need, although Oscar Delp is really a big option there, a priority target there. It's not offensive line. It's not defensive back. Probably could have said wide receiver here as well. because Georgia certainly needs to do a great job in 2021. Wide receivers probably, considering Georgia did sign 2 wide receivers in 2021, but they weren't of the top 150 variety that they've done with so well in the last couple of classes, with the likes of Marcus Rosemy-Jack Saint, Arian Smith, Jermaine Burton, Dominic Blaylock, and George Pickens. Georgia really needs to do something at the wide receiver position. But the third one that I think is a definite need is the outside linebacker position. And that's one where we look at it, folks, and the cupboard could get really bare. Here's why I would say that. Georgia only signed 1 outside linebacker in 2022. That was Mikhail Sherman. He had his freshman season, his first season in Athens this fall. Got some special teams work, got some backup work as well during uncontested fourth quarters. But Georgia, when you look at this, they only signed in the 2021 class a pair of hybrid linebackers, where you look at Xavier Sorey Jr., he's rated as an outside linebacker. I think he can just as well, more likely, be an inside linebacker at Georgia. That's the position he was being recruited for. And then you also had Chaz Chambliss. And Chaz Chambliss is a guy that really could end up as a strong side defensive end as much as he could an outside linebacker. Chaz Chambliss is a grown man, about 6'3", about 235, 242 pounds. Kind of looks like Steve Rogers, Captain America, whenever you see him working out over the last couple of years. But that outside linebacker room can get very, very thin when you see, guys that have already moved on. But you see, Jermaine Johnson moved on. He wasn't going to factor in the 2022 team whatsoever as well. But, you see Georgia kind of losing a little bit of maybe that 5-star oomph they had at the outside linebacker position for Dan Lanning's room. When you consider Adam Anderson won't be around for the 2022 season, Robert Beal Jr. won't, Walter Grant won't, and Nolan Smith won't. It really basically leaves left at outside linebacker for the 2022 season, which is vital for recruiting in the 2022 class. You never want to depend on freshmen there, but you would have basically likely the likes of Mikhail Sherman, whoever Georgia gets in 2020 in the 2022 class, and then you would also have the 2 guys this year who are kind of hybrids in Xavier Sorey Jr. and Chaz Chambliss. Of course, Georgia did do some good work already. They've picked up a commitment from 6'5" pass rusher Darius Smith out of Appling County. Hear a lot of folks tell me that that Darius Smith reminds them a lot of a Nolan Smith, but perhaps a little bit more length. He's 6'5". He had a great season last year for Appling County on a playoff team. But there, guys, if you start looking at the cupboard about who's leaving, who's kind of earmarked to leave, and then what Georgia has signed in the last couple of classes, they've went a little lighter on inside linebackers and outside linebackers specifically. And that's why I feel that outside linebacker is a huge priority for the 2022 class. That's one of 3. You guys are just joining us. You would see that the 3 positions, I'll repeat them: defensive line. The second one is the first one. Second one is running back. Running back's always a priority every year. I think Georgia needs to get 2 more guys in this class. We wrote about Emmanuel Henderson already this week on DogNation.com, how he felt about Georgia. He's actually a Georgia native living in South Alabama, just south of Dothan, almost really at the Florida state line. That's why running backs are so important. Then the final one was outside linebacker. Let me take a quick trip through a couple of comments, see what everybody's talking about. Guys, as always, if you got a question, anything I can remedy, anything I can address for you guys on Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger, I would certainly be glad to do so. Brought to you by Kroger, I would certainly be glad. Let me see, scanning through a bunch. Hi, Luss has an opinion about Nolan Smith. I really think this is the year for Nolan, kind of the year that sets up for him to really substantiate all those great recruiting rankings. James Crump weighs in with an opinion. He says, I think Nolan Just not have gotten a true opportunity over Aziz, Adam Anderson, and Jermaine Johnson. Matt Talley bringing in his thoughts. Matt, how are you doing tonight, sir? Bringing in his thoughts about Auburn. Yeah, I think Auburn really created a really bridge recruiting class this year with, a recruiting staff this year with what they do with bringing Brian Harsin in from the outside out of Boise State. And then they're bringing a lot of guys with SEC experience, SEC recruiting experience as well. Let me see. Facebook. I had a question. I saw a question. Tommy Derricott. Yeah, there is truth to Muschamp at Georgia in some capacity, whether he's going to be an analyst or a consultant. He's been in the building. I was told he was in the building the week of bowl practices, kind of consulting, taking a look what Georgia does. I don't know if he's going to be the ideal first choice to end up as the defensive backs coach. Got some questions. I think Jason Brian Lee, I'm sure many of you guys have put that out there. Everybody's wondering about Eric Gilbert. Here's what I'm going to tell you guys about Eric Gilbert. I think that is a situation there where I think cloudy is the way to describe that. There are some things going on in there that probably don't need to be brought to light in a public forum. There's some things that situation needs to get worked out. Of course, there's been a lot of transition with Eric, and then perhaps whether he would return to LSU, whether he was looking at Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama, Florida. I've heard all those names, but I've also heard that there's some things that the young man needs to sort through before he's able to make one of these big decisions like that about Eric Gilbert. What he probably could do there is he could probably go to school online somewhere. He could work out, or he could return to LSU as well, though I think all those options are on the table. But, right now, I think the best thing to say here about Eric Gilbert, with everybody wondering about where Gilbert's going to wind up, is to probably not detail everything that's going on behind the scenes right there. Let me see what's up with Facebook. That was Facebook. YouTube. While I'm looking at YouTube, I think really the thing to do here is to always flash our top targets. We still got a 2021 recruiting cycle. That means Terrion Arnold to talk about there. Terrion Arnold out of Tallahassee, Florida. He is the number one remaining target for Georgia for the 2021, recruiting cycle. Terrion Arnold, I think you're going to see a lot of things when those last rankings come out. If I was a betting man, I would say Terrion is going to end up right around 5-star status. I think that is a reflective measure of his ability as a defensive back, as a kick returner. Perhaps he should probably wind up as the nation's number one safety. If he did choose Georgia, I think he would start out at cornerback. Florida, Alabama, you hear Florida, Georgia a lot. You hear Georgia, Alabama a lot. I think the one consistent thing you hear there is you hear a lot of Georgia, either Team A or Team B, or always in it for the longest time. I think I put on the Dog Nation forum earlier this week about Charlton Warren moving on. I don't think that's going to be a bridge that Georgia can't cross. I see how Florida came back with Wesley McGriff, the former Auburn defensive backs coach, to fill their open position in the secondary. I think the main thing with Terrion Arnold in Georgia is, more than any other coach, I've heard him talk about Kirby Smart as the main linchpin and his attraction to Georgia. He mentions Kirby Smart in Georgia about every time that subject comes up. Kirby is from Bainbridge. Terrion Arnold always draws the parallel that's from his area, 30 minutes away. He can relate to Kirby. Kirby can relate to him. I think he said he knew some of the things to do, knew some of the things that football players would do to hang out or have fun in the area. And there's a kinship there between those two. And the two or three biggest things Terrion Arnold's always looking for: competition, relationships, and a place where he can win. He wants to go somewhere where he can challenge for championships. If not, then he would have wound up a hometown hero going to Florida State. That, guys, is your first look at I would call it our first half of our show. As always, our show each and every week is brought to you by our fine Before the Hedges and Dog Nation partners. That's Kroger. We've been giving away How About Them groceries on this show for a long time. When we started out for the first 3 or 4 years of our show, everybody remember those $50 gift cards and how we handed all those out. If you guys are watching the show tonight and you won one of those $50 gift cards, throw a hand up. I'm sure everybody could have used those groceries at that time. But right now, we got Kroger on our minds. Everybody, I know you don't hear enough from Brandon Adams. Let's take a listen right here to a special message from our sponsor. That's Kroger.
We'll get back to the show in just a moment, but first, a quick word from Kroger. Kroger has made shopping for the groceries and household essential items that you need even easier by offering free pickup. Just shop online, choose a pickup time convenient for you, and Kroger will carefully pick out your order and bring it to your vehicle when you arrive. So the next time you're ready to shop at Kroger, take advantage of the free pickup. It's just another way that Kroger is fresh for everyone.
All right, guys, you even got the trunk loaded right now. Remember, they'll even load your trunk for you from Kroger. Get your click list, you pull into that lane, and all of a sudden you feel like a 5-star when you're going Krogering right there. Joe Ford, I think Terrion could play cornerback and Keeley could also play star. Hunter Davis shares the opinion that Georgia needs Arnold. Silent Chaos feels that Georgia has all their bases covered in recruiting for 2021. Would be nice to have another cornerback or safety. Well, Silent Chaos, that's why Terrion Arnold is so important. He could probably be the best safety or the best cornerback in Georgia's class. Michael Porter, you're asking me a question. What about Mim? Are you talking about Mims or are you saying what about him? Brian McPhail, I think Georgia could possibly sign one more high school player in the 2021 cycle. They would save the rest of their class for transfers. Nick Vernon, question I get a lot. The freshman I see making the biggest impact, I usually settle on I like Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins. I like Marius Mims, and I like Brock Bowers. I think those are the guys, the true freshmen, that I think can make the biggest early impact. Brian McPhail, I did discuss Gilbert. Silent Chaos, we were talking about Emmanuel Henderson. Yeah, Emmanuel, it's funny. I wrote about him this week. So he's like the best player in his area since 1932. They have to go back to a Rose Bowl MVP in 1934. That's in way South Alabama, almost at the Florida state line. Emmanuel Henderson actually knows Xavier Sori fairly well. They've got his cousin actually, Xavier's cousin actually played basketball with Emmanuel Henderson at Geneva County. That's in Hartford, Alabama, really small community, close-knit community. But Emmanuel's the best player since 1932 in that area. He reminds me of a faster Terrion Johnson. He's about 6'3". He's about 6'1", 6'2", about 195, 200 pounds. Plays baseball, plays basketball. The intriguing part for me there is that he told me when we spoke that he'd already spoken to Kirby Smart about 8 or 9 times, whereas he'd only spoken to Nick Saban twice and Dabo Swinney once. For me, I think the teams to watch there are Auburn, Alabama, of course, SEC guy, #1 running back in the country, 5-star running back. He is wanted by both those schools. But for me, it's Georgia, Clemson, Alabama, and Auburn. Those seem like the schools to watch there for Emmanuel Henderson. We wrote a lot about him, and you can check earlier this week, and you can check all that out on dognation.com. All right. Quick lap around a couple of things I wanted to get everybody's attention. We've seen Terrion Arnold as the top remaining target. Georgia's class, let's take a quick look at that. It's number 3 nationally. I don't think Georgia's going to catch Bama or Ohio State at 1 or 2, but they could get a little bit closer with the addition of Terrion Arnold. Most of the guys, their rankings have stayed the same. 16 guys are in Athens. That's Amarius Mims, Brock Vandagriff, Xavier Sorey Jr., Shmael Munden, Micah Morris. We profiled him in the Dog Nation film room, as well as Amarius Mims earlier this week. Nyland Green, David Daniel, Brock Bowers, Lavassier Carroll. Remember, folks, think like Busta Rhymes when you pronounce that first name. Lavassier Carroll, one of Busta Rhymes' greatest hits. You got Jonathan Jefferson out of Douglas County, rated as a DE. He's going to be a defensive tackle at Georgia. TID, that's Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, Chaz Chambliss, Donnie Mitchell, Marlon Dean, Javon Bullard, and Jackson Meeks. 4 guys that are still left that have signed with Georgia but have not enrolled yet. They couldn't graduate early and get to Athens. That's Dylan Fairchild. I think he's going for a state title in 2 weeks at Macon, defending his class heavyweight championship. Jawan Dumas Johnson, Kamari Lassiter, and Jared Wilson. Jared's one of those unique guys that didn't get a chance to play his high school senior year, so he'll be playing in the spring with everyone else in North Carolina. North Carolina's going to do things a little weird. They're going to only play about 8 or 9 games and have a reduced 8 or 9 regular season games, and they're going to have a reduced 12-game spring season, and then they're going to have a reduced fall as well to kind of take some of the workload off the boys playing from, March, April, May, and then coming back and after maybe like 2 or 3 months off, and then going in the fall like as normal. That's a lot of games. Some of those players in North Carolina, they could probably play on a state championship team. They could probably play somewhere around 20, 22 games in a calendar year, and that's a lot for a high school kid. We've been talking about 2022 targets. If you saw the first part of our show, we discussed our 2022 biggest positional priority needs. And I think we're going to roll down now with a top targets 2022 version. This is version 1.1 because it has changed. There is a change right there. Number 12 is Shamar Stewart. That is the 5-star defensive end out of Opelika, Florida. Everybody in the country is in on him. Dan Lanning has been the primary recruiter for Georgia. Number 11, this guy drops a couple of spots. Travis Shaw, the 5-star defensive tackle. Georgia's going to have to deal with North Carolina and Clemson, especially there. I think Tennessee's candidacy for Travis Shaw has left the building. Number 10, Jeremiah Alexander. He's at Thompson. He's at Alabaster, Alabama. He's one of those guys, Jeremiah, that's just pining for his visits. He's not going to make his commitment until after his senior year. He was a former Alabama commitment. A guy that moves up a couple of notches this week is Barry Alexander. He was a dominating force for a Ryan High School state championship team in Texas. Got triple teamed, got double teamed. I think he's going to be a 5-star defensive tackle in the end. Bear has told me that he wants to wait as long as possible to make his college decision, but Georgia has been prioritizing him and talking to him for the longest time. Good relationships there already with Georgia and Barry Alexander. Number 8 is Brendan Thompson. He gave a shout out to Georgia fans this week from his Twitter account. Georgia has prioritized him. This is a 10.18 guy in his junior year, faster than Arian Smith. That type of wheels on Brendan Thompson. He's out of Texas, of course. The new Texas staff, Sarkisian is on him. Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Clemson, Alabama, Georgia. I think Brendan Thompson told me this week that he's talking to Alabama tomorrow. So, all these schools are really trying their best to get a very special athlete. We've put his film up on before in our Dog Nation forum.dognation.com. Brendan Thompson's the type of guy, if he didn't have 4.3 speed, if he was a mere 4.7, would still be a great football player because he gets after it. He's tenacious. He's physical. He's got a really just the way he plays the game and gets after it. He would be successful even if he did not have elite speed for a high school athlete. Now, he's listed as an athlete. He's kind of a top 70 player there coming out of Texas, but he would likely be a wide receiver primarily should he choose any of those schools that I just mentioned there. Georgia, I think, is currently in his top 12, and I think Georgia will stay in a lot of his top schools cut downs as well. Number 7 is Gunnar Stockton, recently decommitted from South Carolina, Georgia, Auburn. Seemed like the principal's there. We talked to that a lot. We talk about that a lot. Daniel Martin out of Marietta, Georgia. That Daniel Martin has been made to feel like a priority for a very long time. He's got Georgia alums in his family, very strong family there. Of education is very valued in Daniel's family. Clemson is there, Alabama's there. A lot of the big, Florida there. All the big schools are there looking at Daniel Martin. LSU is another school, but Martin is a guy that it seems like C.J. Washington and Marquise Groves-Killebrew, those guys have been talking to him and have been in his ear for the longest time. Number 5, Branson Robinson. Guys, dismiss all that 3-star stuff right there. I think Branson Robinson is a 5-star walking. He's out of Germantown in Madison, Mississippi. Definitely, I think, a major target for Georgia. I think he's squatting over 500 pounds. He's benching almost 400 pounds already. You guys know that type of stuff from a high school running back. You know who that reminds everyone of when I start dropping out weightlifting totals like that for a high school running back. Number 4 is Jalen Walker. I loved writing his story, talking to this young man and his family. His dad is a college coach at Catawba in Salisbury, North Carolina, a head coach at Catawba in Salisbury, North Carolina. His dad wanted to be a Georgia Bulldog growing up. Jalen Walker's dad, Curtis Walker, played high school at the same high school which produced Jamie Newman. Everybody remembers that school from the Jamie Newman early stories when they had a Georgia G, when they had the same similar colors. That's why Jalen Walker's father always dreamed about being a Bulldog. And the nation's, I think he's the number 4 outside linebacker. Georgia's in his top 6. Georgia certainly has a chance for Jalen Walker. He's the young man I wrote about that wants to be an orthodontist one day, and that was a natural. To me, it was natural to write about a guy that wants to, rattle some teeth and then straighten some teeth later on in his work life and professional career. Jalen Walker actually has already been job shadowing and trailing, orthodontists in his Salisbury, I think that's Rowan County, Salisbury area in North Carolina, because he's wanted to be an orthodontist longer than he's wanted to be an NFL linebacker. Number 3, we just said a whole lot about Emmanuel Henderson out of Geneva County in Hartford, Alabama, earlier in our show. I want to make sure you guys picked up on the frequency of contact already from Georgia coach Kirby Smart and Del McGee compared to other schools. When I asked Emmanuel, there's that Xavier Sori connection, nation's number 1 running back, 5-star running back out of Alabama. When I asked him what schools he would like to visit as soon as the NCAA allows it, the first school he named was the University of Georgia. Number 2 is Mikael Williams out of Hardaway, Columbus, Georgia. I think this guy is another 5-star, 6'5". He had 17 sacks as a high school junior. Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. Those seem like the really vital, integral schools there for Mikael Williams. And then number 1, staying at number 1 each week, 5-star athlete Malachi Starks out of Jefferson. I think I'm going to write about Malachi really soon because I got a couple great stories I want to tell you about Malachi Starks and what he means to his community and also what he went through during his junior season when he led Jefferson to an unbeaten season before falling to a really stout Maris team in the state championship game at Georgia State. Couple of other names I want you to know. I went through a bunch of them each week. We wrote about Kojo Antwi this week, how loaded top 8. He's got Georgia and Ohio State standing out as his leaders at the top, which is they're starting to break away from everybody else in his top 6. I really enjoyed watching his tape. If you guys like to just crunch tape and just binge some tape, Kojo has a very enjoyable 4 minutes and 31-second film. You don't have simple 12-yard catches on that thing. Everything on that tape is a plus play. It is a playmaker's play. No, as I wrote today on DogNation.com when I profiled Kojo Antwi, hope you guys got a chance to see that story. There are no empty calories on his film. bunch of names to talk about here. We always go through these every week. I mentioned Oscar Delp is another guy. Emery Floyd, the guy we wrote about, he wants to break. Also earlier this week, he wants to break the 21-second mark during spring track in the 200. Has the potential, Emery Floyd, to be as fast as anybody Georgia has ever signed. He's already a 4.40 guy. He would be a safety. New additions I want to bring to everybody's kind of radar is, let me see, Cade Klubnik out of Westlake High School in Texas. That's Austin, Texas. Now, Georgia offered him back prior to his junior year. Cade just won back-to-back. He led his team to back-to-back state championships in Texas's largest classification. He actually beat Quinn Ewers, the Ohio State commit, the 5-star number 1 prospect in the country right now. He actually beat him in the championship game. Another name I want to bring to everybody's mind is Walton, cornerback Marcus Allen. He's the younger brother of Derek Allen, who went to Notre Dame and has since transferred to Georgia Tech. Comes from a very determined, very intelligent, very academically savvy family out of Walton High School. He has a Georgia offer. I would expect Georgia to continue to pursue him in the 2022 class. He's another one of those guys that can play, big enough to be a safety at 6'2". Also has true corner skills as well. Those are some of the names I wanted to bring to your attention for the big names to know in the 2022 class. Quick thing on the 2021 class, offensive, defensive breakdown. Georgia has 9 guys for the offensive side of the ball, 11 for the defensive side of the ball. The split between in-state and out-of-state is now 10-10. Only 2 of those guys go outside the SEC footprint. Just want to try to make sure you guys are aware of that with every recruiting class. Guys, we got a couple things I want to show you also tonight that caught my attention on Twitter. We would call this the tweets of the week, or the chatter that kind of sticks out to me. The first of those, let's bring up the graphic for something we spoke about earlier in our show. That's Georgia extending a preferred walk-on offer to Logan Johnson. Now, Logan has the chance here now to play for his home state, nearby Prince Avenue Christian Bogart, Brock Vandagriff's number 1 target throughout high school. He has the option to be a preferred walk-on at Georgia, which would be a matchup nightmare, especially on the scout teams early on. But the reality here is he's about 5'6" and about 165 pounds. Would be impossible to guard. But I don't know if, for me, this is an opinion. Certainly be a great thing for Logan, whatever he chose to do. But I think really he needs to go somewhere where he can play right away. And the best chance for him to play right away would probably be at a place like Troy. He can do that maybe after a redshirt season. And then also, if he wanted to, he would always have the option to transfer back to Georgia and be a walk-on as well. That sort of thing. Those options would also always be there for him as well. The second thing, man, Logan has made a ton of plays. He committed to Troy, but he did not sign during the early period. Let's take a look at that tweet that we want to bring to everybody's attention from the National Quarterback Club, highlighting Brock Vandagriff as their National Quarterback of the Year. Pretty cool deal there. Pretty cool thing there. Brock Vandagriff joins an esteemed fraternity of guys that have won that award. Guys that are still in college football: Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, and also Bryce Young at Alabama, the new quarterback, the next quarterback at Alabama. Also, Tim Tebow won that award in the past. I think Brock Berlin won that award in the past, former Florida quarterback. And then also Vince Young, another former Heisman Trophy winner who won that. I don't think we got to show you this last week. Let me show you the video of Georgia. Georgia put together a nice little video from Zooms, a quick little introduction to their 2021 class. You get to hear their voices, you get to see their smiles, and you get to see their faces. Take a quick look. I think we've got that for you guys on our show tonight. Take a quick look at that.
Dog Nation was good.
What's up, Dog Nation?
What's up, Dog Nation?
What's up, Dog Nation?
What's up, Dog Nation? Representing all day, every day.
What's going on, Dog Nation? This is Michael Morris.
Offensive lineman class of 2021.
2021 QB commit, Brock Vandagriff.
Xavier Sori, 2021 linebacker out of Campbellton, Florida.
This is Terrion Arnold, Mars, man.
Brock Bowers from Napa, California.
I just want to say, man, I'm blessed for the opportunity to play at the University of Georgia, man.
Just let me get out there and put on the show for y'all.
I want y'all to know how excited I am to be a dog.
I can't wait to get on campus, show y'all what I'm all about.
Blessed to be a part of the Bulldog family. Let's get to work.
Can't wait to show y'all what I bring to the table.
Blessed for the opportunity and excited to get on campus.
Hey, I can't wait to get that, baby. Let's get it.
Can't wait to get down to the G.
Can't wait to get to Athens and leave it all on the field.
Ready to get this thing rolling.
Grateful for this opportunity. Can't wait to become a dog. Go Dogs, baby.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, baby.
Go Dogs.
Hey, Dennis Wilson, I see your comment here on YouTube, man. Yeah, Opelika, Florida. That's right. Yes, in your backyard, Shamar Stewart. A couple other things I want to show you guys about. Let's look at this tweet here from Oscar Delp. I think he's been Georgia's #1 target at tight end for the 2022 class. Man, he had a very strong junior year, especially even though he was hurt. Picked up a recent offer from Clemson. Michigan has always been a big school for him. He accepted an invitation and committed to the All-American Bowl out in San Antonio. Would be great to see him playing for the East team next January. Crossing the fingers, hoping sure all that stuff still gets to happen next year as well. We get this virus in check. The second one I want to show you, it's another in-state guy. We talked about defensive lineman earlier in the show. Kristen Miller out of Cedar Grove High School is a guy that I could see winding up at Georgia. Defensive lineman, he also accepted. And a part of that strong defensive line class for 2022 in the state of Georgia, Kristen Miller out of Cedar Grove High School, he also committed to the All-American Bowl over the last 4 or 5 days. So congratulations to Christian and Oscar as well. Those guys are very strong additions to the East team for the All-American Bowl. And Kristen has a presence to him. I tell you, folks, any walk of life, you meet Kristen Miller, and maybe he wants to work for you. Maybe he's got his resume on your desk. Maybe you get the chance to play some golf with him or just meet him in person. That young man has a bright and charismatic personality. Very outgoing, the type of young person that you see that God's gifted him with all this athletic ability. Could be an offensive tackle or a defensive tackle. It just looks like every day is the best day of his life. And it's very cool when you get to meet some young people like that in this position that I have right there. So, guys, I'm going to take a quick lap before the Hedges. Again, another edition, the January 20th, 2021 edition. Hope everybody's had a good week so far. What do you guys think about the it's funny, I'm going to tell you a little bit of intel about my life. We're having some painting done. We're having some remodeling done in our kitchen. So really the fact that I brought out this screensaver here to kind of cover up all the drop cloth and all the things that are going in and out. Let me tell you, folks, that is a wonderful project to always test the strengths of your family bond and how great things are in your household when you're having home renovations done. Especially during the week when everybody is distance learning from school. Let me see. Got some Miami, Alabama talk in the YouTube thread. Let me see what. Let me see take one more lap through Facebook, see if I can answer a couple more questions. Anybody got them? Stephen Furr, thanks for joining us. Guy Baker, Logan Sweat, Kenneth Wiggins, Jacob O'Neill, Bob Cross, Roderick Price. Yeah, Chad. Yeah, top targets definitely needed OLBs. I think it's an area where Georgia has to get and reload the outside linebacker position. Tom Harlow, Philip Jordan Wells, Bob Cross, Philip Jordan Well. Good question here. Which prospect grades out higher on the composite as a high 4-star, borderline 5-star? Ranking Mothra or Rodan? Man, I'd have to go with Rodan on that one. Mike Zambiasi, thank you. Linda Ray, Robert Reynolds, thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. Folks, that has been Before the Hedges, brought to you guys by Kroger. Hope you guys have gotten your supper tonight. I'm about to have mine. Been a busy day in the salt mines here on Dog Nation, cranking out some content, getting on the forum, checking my phones, and also streaming live to you guys every Wednesday night. It is certainly my pleasure to be able to do so each and every week. Thanks to everybody to join us on Facebook. Thanks to everybody who joined us on Kroger. You guys have liked any part of our show, give us a like. You can also find Before the Hedges each and every week on Spotify, SoundCloud, and the Apple podcast platform as a podcast. Folks, we might be adding a little bit more inventory to our Before the Hedges podcast coming up in the near future. We'll be thinking about that. Let us know if you would like to hear more podcasts from us on a more by 2 or 3 times a week, maybe. Let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. As always, we do appreciate your 5-star reviews on the Apple podcast platform as well. From everybody here at Dog Nation, I'm Jeff Sintel. This has been another edition of Before the Hedges, brought to you by Kroger. Check out Brandon Adams tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Got another Cover 4 live with the gang, Mike, Connor, Brandon, and myself tomorrow as well on Thursday. Thursday is Cover 4 day here on Dog Nation. For everybody here at Dog Nation, I'm Jeff Sintel. We'll see you guys later on the pages of dognation.com. Have yourself a great night and a great week, everybody.